The most efficient way to document my exam is to have exam profiles that are linked to either a problem or a type of appointment. So in this case, I'll select diabetes on this patient. I'll skip past the HPI and notice that this problem, this family of problems, diabetes, has an exam profile linked to it. So just by selecting the problem, it gives me a really good starting point for the note. You can associate a typical exam profile to a specific problem category, like we did diabetes, or even an appointment type. So if you do a typical examination for a CPE, you can create an exam profile for a CPE and link it to the appointment type. And that way it gives you a really good starting point. And from here, you just simply click on the hyperlinks to make the changes as necessary to the exam, and makes it really simple. Now, if you don't have either of those set up and you end up with basically a blank objective in your notes, so there's nothing documented, you can document from scratch by clicking on the exam button. And then one by one, you can open up the various exam forms. So I can open up the general form, and I'll say that she is, we'll say she is a little bit overweight. She doesn't look overweight, but we'll say she's overweight. And that begins the documentation process. So let me go ahead and just open up a neck exam, and we'll go through a couple of things here that are important to recognize. First of all of the data here, most of the data are grouped in sections, and those sections have these WNL buttons, which stands for within normal limits. Those are predefined as to what is the quote-unquote normal value within that box. So if I click on WNL, it automatically changes. I only have one field in that box. If I click on WNL here, it changes all of that to the normal values. WNL there changes all of that to normal. So your normal values, what the WNL button does is defined by your normal preset. So that's what these buttons do. And then next to them are these little additional buttons that allow you to select a preset and apply it only to this section of the form. So for example, if I select blank, it blanks out that form. If I select normal, that does exactly the same thing as clicking on the WNL button. We do have a couple of fields here that show in green, and they show in green because there are other options available to you if you right click on it. So for example, I've entered right there, and if I right click on it, it opens up an exam descriptor form that allows me to give a little bit more information as is appropriate for that field. So anything in green indicates that if you right click on it, it will allow you to have more information. All of the exam forms have a text box, so if you want to just type, you can type. Sometimes it's necessary to type things that are not, you don't have any other option to do, or if you want to dictate, you can use dictation here as well. But if I want to make a statement about the neck exam that is easier to type, I can type that. And I also have this load text button that allows me to choose from previously saved blocks of text. So I'll go ahead and select that first one, and then it pops it in there. I can use this blank button to clear it, and that clears it out. And if I want to put in something new, all right, I can do that. Now it's important to remember, whenever you type something into those text boxes, if you think you might use it again for another patient, don't type it twice. Click on the Save Text button. So if I do that, it allows me to give it a name. So I'll say, here's something new. Okay, and I'll save it. And now, if I clear that box and I click on the Load Text button, then I've got my option that I just created is now in the menu. I click on it and it pops it in there. So again, anytime you find you're typing something in the system that you think you might use again, make sure you save it using that little button, and that'll make it easier for you. One other thing here in this form is all of the exam forms have an include in note checkbox. And by default, that's going to be checked when I open the form, and that just simply says put it in my note. Now, if I've opened this form by mistake, I don't want this form in my note at all, I can uncheck that box and save it, and that will take it out of my note. Some of the forms allow you to do other things like drawing, for example. So if I do an abdominal exam, that's not already in my profile, but that's okay. I can open up the abdominal exam manually. I do that, and I can click on the draw button. If I do that, that opens up my window where I can manually draw a scar there. Oops, I want that to be in red. Well, let me click reset here. I'll start over, click on red, draw a little scar, save it, save that, and now that throws that into my note.